You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 717 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. Today on the show, we have some thoughts and discussion on teaching people post-pandemic with Angela Ariatti. After that, we are pleased to be joined by Canadian competitor Maya Markowski. And then Reese and I have a trainer tip about lunging.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Phil. How are you this week?
Hi, Reese. The entire talk this week has been dominated in the news by air quality, forest fire situation.
I've been worried about you. I honestly, everybody I texted Philip,
you sent me a message, but I was like, no, we're fine. I don't know whether it's like in the cities it gets much worse, but where we're at.
It depends on where you are, right?
Yeah, right of course, first the location and geography. So we're fine. One day, Tuesday, I think it was bad, not bad, but kind of smoky, and you can really, it smells like campfire every day, but not so much like affected by air quality problems. Yeah.
But that does bring up, there is an air quality index for horses, which I think is really interesting. And I know you can also look up air quality. So where I am in Kentucky, we're not having any problems, thankfully. But I personally am an asthmatic. So if we were in that air quality, I would really have to be paying attention to it. So where I am right now, I don't have to be, but, being sensitive, we have listeners all over the place, and we want to make sure that there is an air quality index for horses. Basically, if you know the air quality, there's numbers to this index. If you're in 301 to 500, that's in the hazardous zone. And apparently that's when you really need to be paying attention that you're not really being or doing strenuous activity for horses, or quite frankly, for someone like myself that has compromised lungs. And if you're in the 200 to 300 range, it's very unhealthy. It's the same thing. And what I'm seeing online is that if you're in that zone, people are just very lightly working the horses, right? But also for people. So I think, again, using your better judgment, obviously, if you need to be wearing a mask outside due to air quality, you probably don't need to be riding your horse for an hour strenuously, right? Like, use your judgment, take time. I know there's been actually some competitions that have been canceled or postponed because of this. Again, I am somebody that this would actually affect dramatically, and I would have to scratch. Like, I couldn't compete in that type of air quality. So just use your better judgment, pay attention, be smart. We hope you're not affected. Again, I'm not affected. It sounds like Phil's okay, but I did check on him early in the week. I'm like, Phil, are you okay? I was worried about you, sir.
This usually isn't a problem. I know that, right. My sister-in-law out in Calgary has, they've been dealing with, forest fires and air quality problems for at least a couple of years. So maybe this is just a wake up that our planet is literally on fire. So
right.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That is a different discussion and probably a different podcast. But, but certainly, if you're in the New York area, I know friends that are in Cleveland. They're having air quality issues. So please be careful. Take it easy. It's okay if you take an easy week with your horse. Be safe and take good care of yourself. So we were all worried about you guys, and we just wanted to bring that to the show. So I'm glad you're good. Again, we're fine here in Kentucky. So we've been training away this week, and it's been a lovely training week. I've had some sometimes I have horse shows coming, but I don't have any this. I have one at the end of the month, but I just ride my horses, and sometimes it's nice to just ride and train and I've just had some nice rides. I've had some really nice rides on Big Mike, and just training horses this week. It's just been fun. So we've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to start with a commercial break from Kentucky Performance Products, and then we'll get into it.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
Have you heard of Saccharomyces boulardii? It's a yeast, a type of probiotic. Often referred to as S. boulardii, it benefits your horse's digestive tract in several different ways. One unique property of S. boulardii is that it supports the stimulation of something called brush-border membrane enzymes that are found in the intestinal lining. These enzymes help your horse digest starches and sugars in the small intestine. When the sugars and starches are more completely digested, fewer of them escape into the hindgut, where they can ferment and cause imbalances that lead to colic, diarrhea, and laminitis. Saccharomyces boulardii is found in Nalox Advanced, made by Kentucky Performance Products. Nalox Advanced contains a blend of yeast, fermentation solubles, and stomach buffers. These ingredients work together to maintain your horse's digestive tract in peak condition. Nalox Advanced is recommended for horses of all ages and stages and is fed on a daily basis.
This Nutritional Minute has been brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. You can find all of their terrific products at kppusa.com.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have Angela Ariatti from Ariatti Equestrian Services on the line, back by popular demand. Right, Angela? It is time for camp and working with your kids this summer, and we're excited to have you tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. So many things have changed since we last talked.
I know. I actually was at Angela's house I was coaching her the other day, and we were talking and prepping for this segment. And I really love what you're talking about, because we want to talk about how kids are learning a little bit differently now. And I think this is maybe going for a lot of us too. I'm not sure that this is just kiddos, but we're going to talk mainly about kids and kind of getting ready for summer. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure. So I thought we'd talk about like 10 different points that have really changed in the way that the children are learning. The biggest thing is that everybody came out of COVID a little differently, like how they reacted to it. And people don't realize that the kids were absorbing this and doing things differently. And mostly they're not as audible. They're not audible learners as much anymore. So the old way of learning would be like, shorten your reins, Reese, shorten your reins, Reese. And you would just think that if Reese wasn't shortening her reins, it's probably because she's just being a bad girl and not listening. But today, the kid is maybe having trouble comprehending or understanding audibly. So a lot of the kids now are a lot more visual learners, not even kinetic learners, which is your active learner, like walking your test. They're more visual learners. So we like to start out a little bit more of, this is what we're going to do today. Let me draw a circle for you. This is what a circle looks like. Do you see where it starts? And instead of having them like walk the points and do like that, we literally have our whiteboard out and we're drawing that. So I think when you go to your child's riding center, you should be seeing them doing things that are help visualizing, showing them pictures. We do a lot of virtual dressage shows now, which we never did before. Through the United States Pony Club, there's a virtual dressage show, and the kids ride their dressage test, and we video it, and then they watch it, and then they make a correction, and then they do it again. And then we submit that video in, and then there's a national show, and then it gets presented into an international show. So we actually have one child right now that's in the international dressage show. And it's really good because the kids can watch themselves and then maybe watch an ideal of that same test and then go, oh, look, that's true. I didn't do that circle like that girl that did it really well. So that's really important, because just saying things over and over again aren't necessarily going to work the way you think.
It doesn't really sink in. So do you think this is all caused by some of the virtual learning, or are people better able to take advantage of the opportunities out there for virtual learning and virtual lessons? Is this where we're getting to?
I don't think that we're getting to that point. I hope we don't get completely to their point. There's a big difference between those two types of lessons. I wouldn't say for the kid, I don't think a virtual lesson like the one I take with Reese is very good because it's very audible. But using the video, like videoing them and then sitting them down and showing them the video and then watching a video of somebody doing the same thing, then the next time I have them by themselves together, they go, oh yeah, I got that. It's like all of a sudden they get the circle, or all of a sudden they understand what the forward looked like. So they're learning it through a different pathway than I originally learned it, which was very audible.
So I've heard of these. Yeah, I've heard of these. Kind of online virtual shows. I mean, I haven't participated. I think that if I were to participate, I would be stuck in this pattern of videoing a test, and then no, that's not good enough, and then videoing a test again, and then just like getting trapped in this. It's not perfect, so I'm not going to send it in kind of situation.
Oh, I see it. I see. Yeah, no, we only do, like with the pony club that we do, we only do it twice, but I could see how that could go that way. Yeah. You don't want to box yourself in at all. No.
Okay, Phil, we understand that's a little personality trait. No offense.
No.
I'm with you too. I would be the same way. Like I actually don't learn well by watching videos of myself.
I don't either.
It's just not, I mean, I have to really force myself to do it. For me, I'm just better. I'm better. I know what it felt like. I kind of know what it looks like, but I do force myself to watch it. But Phil, I get what you're saying. For some people,
being trapped in this perfectionist idea, and like being hypercritical of watching myself on a video. Like, no, it's not good enough.
But see, they're not. But Phil, they're not. I mean, if you look at what, like for instance, they'll go online, and this is why I'm saying this is really important. They're visual learners. But they're also really addicted into, I use the word addicted, but they're really addicted into like what other people think, right? So they will post something online and say, I had a great ride today. And it'll be like this, whatever video. And I'll look at it and I'll be like, that was horrible. Like that is horrible. Like,
why would you ever post that?
You and I would be like mortified to put it online.
Yeah.
And then they go on and they look and they got 20 million likes. So this must be a good video.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
so that's why it's important that when you're doing this video stuff, that they're looking at not their friend who got 250,000 likes, but that they're looking at, Ingrid Klimka or the last regional champion who did training level test 3. Like compare yourself to that, not to and person Angela, who got the most likes.
Yeah, and we were talking too, because I know this kid. He's wonderful, but also it was a really good learning tool because he did it last year too. So it was a good way for him to see his progress from this time last year to this time this year.
Because last year he didn't get into the international; he just got into the. And it's fun for them to see when they hit the international show. It's fun for them to see the other riders from the other country. And that brings me to my next real big point. It is extremely important right now, because the kids are visual learners, that they're having community riding together. So I used to say you couldn't be in a group until you learned how to canter. I no longer say that anymore. I will literally put a group of 2 walk trotters together now. Okay. I'll feed them on each other. Who's got the best heels? Who can, hold their egg in their spoon, and they'll watch each other and they'll copy each other. And then I'll mold their little legs in the right place and say, make your leg do that. Is her leg doing that? And it will do it at the walk and trot. If you need very safe ponies. It is not good to go into a riding center that is doing 8 to 10 to 12 at a time anymore. It's causing too much anxiety and fear riding. And
that would cause me anxiety
over again. Well, I know it would cause you and Phil anxiety, but in general, the old school of just like there's tons of kids running around and blah blah blah. They're not learning anything. So if I was a parent, I would not want to see large groups. No larger than 7 for sure. It's not. They're getting more and more. We just did camp this week. There's one girl that's from out of town from Pittsburgh, came in and literally she was comparing herself to others. And we only have like 3 in her class. And she starts just shouting, I could do better than this. I could do. And I mean, like, really, I should be doing this. And I'm like, whoa there, sister. What is going on?
Yeah. What's happening? What's happening? Sure.
I'm like, we have a rule that when you have a breakdown, you have to get off your horse. So we better take a break.
Yeah, time to get down.
Catch our breath. And nobody was putting pressure on the shot. Nobody was like, you got to ride that line again. You got to, whatever, again, sit up taller again. Nobody was drilling her, nothing.
Interesting.
And she just had a meltdown and like she wasn't used. I don't know what she wasn't used to. I don't really know. And I'm not going to be a psychologist and figure it out, but we need to bring them down to a place of learning. So then that leads to the next point. They need some community, like horse grooming lessons together, virtual shows together, watching each other on videos, not comparing, but comparing to someone who's better, not because they got more likes, trail rides. They love doing paint day more than they ever have. And then they still, even over 8 now, it used to be like 4 to 8 needed playtime. But I'm telling you, my 12-year-olds, today was the biggest laughing fun day when they got to ride bareback and do games. And these are not these. I mean, and they were having more fun. They were having just as much fun as my 8-year-olds do. I mean, they were just having fun, and they need that to build their confidence. They miss that community. They miss their playtime. You need to see, though, and here's where the catcher is, that the instructor is doing what we would call when we ride, what you call, Reese, making positive tension. So we're not going to create so much drama that everybody breaks down, but you want to see your instructor still push it a little bit. Not just nicey, flowery, but you still need to see a little bit of positive tension, and you need to have an instructor that knows when to push and when not to. When to push it.
Isn't that the most difficult thing? It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter whether it's kids or adults. It's important to have a standard, that the student is getting instruction to improve, right? If it's right, if there's no push,
so the reason,
how are we going to improve?
Yeah, and I am seeing more and more, because there's less centers, that we are trying to and there's a higher demand because people like to be outside. So there seemed to be a higher demand. There was a big push during COVID when nobody could do anything else. It's like, okay, let's do something outside. That looks fun.
Right.
So there was a raise in like membership of Pony Club, and then it kind of dropped because not everybody stayed in it. They went back to doing what they were doing. But so then there also was people just like throwing anybody in to teach your kid. And everybody a licensed instructor. Right. I know it's just a kid lesson. I know. I mean, I have my older pony clubbers that are, have been taught how to teach, and I'm watching them this week, and I'm correcting them. That wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. It's hard to teach. People don't realize how hard it is to teach. Don't bring anybody in to teach. Just because you're a good rider doesn't mean you can teach.
It's so hard.
Because it's like what Phil said. Are we getting improvement? You have to want the improvement. You have to know when to push the tension and when to back it off. But now it's really important because, I can speak in my lowest, but I'm like driven to want good stuff. So I want to see an improvement almost to a fault. I'll push it past the tension, but
Yeah.
you need to really think, okay, we got to make a little improvement. How am I what's 1% better, right, Reese? What's 1% better today?
Exactly. Every lesson.
So that's important, not let that go because you're trying to be delicate, because these kids have so much anxiety just being around other people or just learning, or they're having that sort of thing. That's really important. And then the other thing that happened is that I don't know if it's just the whole dynamic of the family coming more together during COVID and not being apart, but the kids are even more or less physical than the last time we talked.
Interesting.
Their core, I'm older now and I'm struggling the last year and a half with my core, et cetera, my health. But when I can hold my core stronger than a 10-year-old, we have a problem.
Sure.
We have a problem. I'm 55. We have a problem. I'm like,
you're working really hard though. Let's be real. But yeah. Yes.
But it's a problem. So it's important to allow the kid to pick the saddle up. Don't be afraid to let them be physical, even if they're slow about it. Even if it takes them longer, it doesn't matter.
Got it.
It doesn't matter. Make them be physical by asking them to do the chores. Get them moving the barrel. So what if the wheelbarrow is, a double-tired wheelbarrow, they can pick up and move. They can pick up their saddle, even if you're in a rush. I want to get my kid on the horse. I want to get out here. Come on, hurry up. Nope. Hurry up. Be efficient, but let them take the time to be physical, because all of that movement is what's going to help them be better in the saddle and therefore have more confidence. Because they won't have confidence when they feel themselves get unbalanced. They're not.
Sure.
Or if somebody's going to do everything for them, is going to step in like, oh, you're too slow, or oh, you're not strong, and then just step in for them. Like, part of it is doing stuff for themselves. Yeah, we've talked about that before. It's. I think you made that point a while ago, and I remembered that because, confidence on the horse, but also confidence off of the horse. Just within themselves to be able to do things. Right.
Right. And it's interesting because there was just a Wall Street Journal article that came out today about the helicopter parent doing even more for the kid, I don't know what it's called now, but it's like even more for the kid. And confidence comes from doing. Confidence comes from doing. There was a huge TED talk that William Micklem did about the go. And that it's all about your first step is just go for it, right? Just go for the canter transition, go for it. That's the first step. Well, you've got to let the kid have the first step. The first step is just go get the saddle. I don't care how you get the saddle, drag it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's why we have these fabric saddles. That's why I'm like, I don't care. Just get the saddle. How are you going to get the saddle? They went today, they did a camp lesson and they had Miss Lori was going to do like grooming and they brought their horses. They were all excited. And she's like, where are your groom boxes? And they were like, oh,
yeah,
it's over there in the other barn. And she looked at them and they looked at her and they just looked at her and she kind of looked at them again. And it was like, come on now, let's figure out what we're going to do here.
Yeah.
And I was like, and of course, then I got impatient because I'm off the side listening. I was like, I think you need to go get the groom boxes. Oh, yeah, that's what we need to do, Miss Lori. We'll be right back. But, it was going to be a long wait. I could tell.
Yeah. They hadn't even been able to make a plan to get the groom boxes.
Gee.
Right. Yeah, and they knew they were coming for a groom lesson. What's happening? And,
this is why I don't teach kids.
And it's hard to tell if they're just tired and they just don't want to walk one more step. Or no, you wouldn't want to walk too many steps in one day. And like today, they're doing a little combined test tomorrow. Well, guess what they're doing tomorrow morning? They're setting up the arena. That's
Sure.
what's happening.
Sure.
Like, because they have to pick things up and they got to move their feet. They got to, and I'm actually taking them off the horse at the end, and they have to jog their horse around the ring. And I'm doing it with all the way up to 18. Oh, they don't like that.
I'm glad. If you did that to me, I'd be like, oh no, I'll walk. I'm not jogging.
No, it's like, now you're jogging your horse in hand through your dressage test, or I'll put the fences down and we're jogging them over the pole. Number one, it teaches them how to make their horse in hand.
Sure.
They look at all this liberty riding and all this horsemanship. Right? Well, your horse should be able to trot in hand with you.
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pet peeve of mine. That's for sure.
So, in that way, when they're halfway, like they were halfway around the course, and one girl starts like groaning. I don't know what that was about, but, and I was like, you can do it. You can do it. And she's like, I don't know. I go, think about your horse. That's what he feels like halfway around. You got to, I'll show you how to make this. And I ran up to her, put my arm in her arm. I'm like, come on, we can do it. And I'm like, that's how you're going to talk to your horse. We can do it. We got 3 more movements. We got this. 3 more jumps, 3 more movements. And she was like, oh, I'm dying. I'm like, it's okay. You got it. So it's the same thing, I mean, you got it. Don't shame them. Don't berate them. Keep encouraging them and keep them moving. Because before I talked about this, it was one thing, but now I'm shocked.
Yeah.
By it. Yeah. And again, we all slowed down. We got isolated. But the big thing with the parenting, you got to keep, parents need to let the instructor instruct. And if you really feel like this isn't the right place, or, it's not the right fit or whatever, I'll encourage you to go somewhere else or look somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would also encourage you is give it 3 tries. Give it 3 tries. Because otherwise you're going to be hopping around. If you hop around too many times, there's only so many places right now.
Yeah.
And
I think that's actually a good rule just for anyone too. If sometimes, and we've talked about this, your instructor may be raising their voice, but just because they want to encourage you, right? So that could be a reason, like, let me encourage you. And you may take it the wrong way, or quite frankly, all 3 of us are instructors and all 3 of us have had bad days and maybe said something we didn't want to say or whatever. I'm just saying, we're also human and overworked, and lots going on for us too. So we're not always perfect, right? We may say something we don't want, but that shouldn't be like, oh, my instructor was mean to me today. That could just be, it was a bad day, or they said whatever. But I think after 3, I also have worked with students that, you can just tell, like, it's not working with their instructor. And I tell them, at some point it is your responsibility to either, talk to your instructor about what you need to get out of your lessons. So if you're coming away more frustrated from your lessons, you should talk to them. But it's the same thing. You don't want to be running around barns, et cetera, like that. There's not that many left. And that's also not good. So, you have to read the room and figure out, what's the right thing for you and your horse and whatever. But if you've gotten to that point, and I'll take it away from there. I was talking about getting a new accountant. And my dad said, once you start talking badly about a professional, it's probably time to move on. And I think that that's kind of a good, this was literally about accounting things. But I think I was like, he's right at that some point, right? You've got a little bit of, okay, we're going to work through this or whatever. But once you get to that point, you kind of need to step back and say, okay, I need to move forward. So I love it. So any other things you want to leave us with tonight, Angela?
The last thing was that the centers or the riding academies, they are struggling in keeping lesson horses.
Yes.
That's a big struggle to maintain them because the cost has gone up so high. So sometimes if you feel like your child isn't moving on and you're on a lesson horse, what I highly would recommend is sometimes you're just limited by the horse you're on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get better, I would read the room, as you say, or notice what's stressing the riding center out and offer to volunteer for that thing.
I love it.
Because the more that what I've really encouraged volunteering coming out of this COVID And now my kids are like, I mean, they love it because it feels like, I asked one of the students today, I'm like, what do we like about this? And she said, well, what I like about differently is now that we're volunteering more and we're being part of the whole big community, not just our local barn, that now I feel like I have more encouragement from everybody if I go to a show, not just my barn. And
I love that.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, just in that, barns and the horse industry in general is struggling to find work, laborers,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we all three of us have dealt with this. Like it's a huge discussion point for us.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
if you had somebody just to do, filling water buckets or something, and another person just mucking one stall a day, I think that would go a long way. To making the whole thing function a little bit better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Instead of being like, well, that test wasn't written very well or whatever, maybe like, how could we volunteer to help the organizers of that show? Or if you're at a lesson horse barn and you're on a lesson horse, hey, we've got an extra hour or two on Saturday and we noticed that your plants need watering. Can we come in? Or we noticed that the old horse in the field needs more grooming. Can we come and groom? Don't say it with expectation that you want to ride. Say it because you want, again, that encourages the kid to be more physical. And it also keeps you at the head of the mind of the instructor. When I start thinking about special opportunities for my kids, I'm thinking about those ones who put in what we call in New Orleans, the langnat, which is like the 13th donut in a baker's dozen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gave me a little extra. So now I remember you. I had a little girl today. She's like, Miss Angela, could I come and clean the truck? Because I know we use it a lot.
Yes.
Sure. There's the truck.
Great.
Yeah. There you go.
And just going back to that lesson, the school horse idea, I actually had a lesson horse and I ended up finding him a new situation, a very, very lovely home. But it was partly because, people would sign up for lessons or they wouldn't come or they would cancel. And I got frustrated because it was a horse I bred, but I still needed him to make a living. Right. And I have tons of people now that are calling me like, oh, don't you have lesson horses? And I was like, actually, and I tell them this, I'm like, I did, but I didn't have people that would be consistent about coming for that horse.
Right.
So I found him a new home. And
and
I
so
think
don't be surprised. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be surprised if your lessons are, yes, you can come for an introductory lesson, maybe 3 lessons, and then you'll be asked to buy a package. That is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Because I'm now on all packages. You do 3 lessons and then you have to pay for 8. And you get 2 makeups on it. And that's because of that. Because I've got to feed this animal for you, for your enjoyment. That's really important.
Yes.
And
if you come or not, or you are sick or
whether it's
or
not
whatever.
canceling your soccer, it's not canceling your soccer game. Your soccer ball, can be deflated and blown back up. I mean, so that's really important to understand that from both sides. We understand you want your kid to enjoy outdoor sports, enjoy this, enjoy that, but this isn't like any other sport because this is a live animal that takes a lot.
Yeah. So and I think that's just across the board for adults too.
That's and the volunteering really helps build the community, and it builds the community, and it builds everything, It helps them be more confident. It puts that physical aspect in. It makes them feel more supported. They need to feel a part of something and physical.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So. Well, Angela, as always, we just love having you come on. I think this has been an awesome discussion. How can our listeners find you online?
If you go to on Facebook, we're on Facebook at Ariatti Equestrian Services. We have a website, Ariatti Horse, and that's how you can find us.
Fantastic. Thank you as always, Angela.
All right. Thank you.
Especially with performance horses, flies can really be a nuisance. Fly predators are a great investment of all the different poisons and insecticides and different things you could use. I don't know of anything that is more economical and more effective than Spalding fly predators.
Well, tonight we are thrilled to have Canadian dressage rider Maya Markowski, who is on the journey to the 2023 Pan American Games in Santiago, Chile. Maya, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you, and you are friends with Philip, but I am just getting to know you, and you're just lovely. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I run my dressage training business, eQuest. We're located in Guelph. We have 24 horses, I think, now at the farm. So I teach, I train, I compete, do all things horse, and that's pretty much consumes my life.
Welcome to the club. Yeah, we're all there.
That's right. Crazy horse
Maya,
people.
how did you get started in riding, and what was your situation way back when?
So I really, I guess, at an early age, showed an interest in riding. My mother, she rode a little bit in Finland, but I don't have really a whole lot of horse background in my family. But I really wanted to ride. I think I was 4, and I kept bugging her to ride. And so she took me to a farm, and they told her that you generally wait until kids are around 6 before they start lessons. So she took me home, and then I guess I was quite annoying and kept bothering her. So she took me back and just asked them to let me sit on a horse, and they did. And that kind of started this whole crazy spiral, and I've been riding ever since.
I love it. So tell us, where have you trained, and a little bit about that.
So I started kind of in the hunter-jumper world and did that. And then at the age of 14, my family relocated to Germany. And so we were there for 3 years. So I rode, we found a farm there. Little to my knowledge was it sort of a big influence in me switching to dressage. So we did jumping, dressage as well, demonstrations. I showed, but I really kind of fell in love with dressage while I was there. So when I came home, I sort of went back to starting horses. I did a lot of backing horses, behavioral training. But my one horse was a jumping horse, and he wasn't really enjoying it. So I switched to dressage with him and started competing him, and slowly sort of completely made the transition over to dressage and haven't looked back since.
So tell us a little bit about the horses that you're campaigning this year in particular.
So I have my horse, Radar. He's a 9-year-old Oldenburg. I bought him as a weanling from Linda Brand. She owns Hanoverian Dream Sport horses. So I bought him. So it's quite exciting because he's one of mine. And then I have Daedalus, who is 18. He was purchased for a client of mine as a 5-year-old. And then I eventually took over the reins as she wanted to see him compete. So he's now officially a Grand Prix horse. So that's very exciting. And then I have it's a big accomplishment, especially since we bought him to just be a safe AA horse. So it's pretty sweet that he's out doing the Grand Prix, trying his little heart out. And he's not a big horse, so we call him Bug. But yeah, it's a lot of fun with him, this journey. And then I have Something Royal is also declared. She's 11, I believe, this year now. A little more experience at this level. The owner bought her as a yearling, and she was bred by Sherry Foxhill, also a Canadian bred horse. They're all bred here. Daedalus was bred by Elke Mulholland, so they're all Canadian bred horses that are declared.
That's fantastic. So this was your first season in Wellington, but you were in Wellington, right? Was this your first season?
No, it was my first season in 9 years, so it's been a while.
Okay.
So yes, I just went back. So it was nice to go back and miss winter, and lots changed down there. So it was really exciting to go down for the winter with them again and compete. So I did lots of showing. I had 7 horses down there. Oh. So I was pretty much showing every weekend. So It was a whirlwind, but it was a great experience, great mileage, lots learned, always learning.
We are always learning. So tell us a little bit about, I love that, always learning. So tell us some things that you learned while showing that much, because that's the beauty of being able to go to Wellington, right? Is that you can show so much. So what were some takeaways from that?
Well, it's nice to be able to show them a few times a month, because they can be very different in the ring than at home. We all at home are going to win the class, and then you go down center line and all of a sudden you're sitting on a very different horse. So the nice thing down there is that you can work through some things, train in the ring, and then go do it again in a week if you want to. Even if you just do one day on the weekend, you don't have to do the whole weekend. And so it keeps them going down center line. They get more confident too, because they can keep doing it. And it's so close. You just ship over, show them and take them back to the farm. And so it was really helpful to do that. Whereas here you show and then you have a month or a month and a half in between. It's a longer distance between the shows. So it's really neat to be able to keep doing it and really see their confidence improve in the ring and learn a little bit more about them in the ring every time.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with, and we have great venues up here, but they're not close to the farm. And then, and you're going to show, and then a month later, you got to prepare for the next show. I mean, that can be a good thing and a bad thing, but, you don't really get an option on, like you have to do almost every show. And especially if you're declared for a team, you have to do what do we have? 4 CDIs this summer, and you've got to do all of them, and you've got to be successful. And like, that's why so many people go down to Florida, is because there's not that much opportunity. Like, you have to do it up here and you have to be successful. Otherwise, you're not going to make a team. I think that's
and it was really nice to do like a few in a row and sort of really work on in the ring riding. And then I come home, and then I have a month and a half, 2 months to then go back home and really work on things that I needed to improve in the ring. So it's kind of it was nice to have that break, but it's nice to have a few right in a row to really kind of get in show mode. But it is a lot of pressure then to come home and have only 4 shows to get your scores at. So it's also a good mental game, because you got to try not to put too much pressure on yourself, because we're all very good at that.
That's literally like, I think, the job description for a dressage trainer. You're like, here we are.
Yeah, pretty much.
So tell us, because Bill and I we were saying this right before we got on air, but we were saying, like, we haven't heard a lot about the Pan Am Games. So can you tell us a little bit about sort of what the process is now and when the games are? Again, it's happening later this year, right? It normally happens earlier, I feel. So we were just saying we need to cover it. So that's partly why we were thrilled to have you on tonight. Can you kind of tell our listeners about like what the process is now?
Yeah, so they're just basically collecting scores. So they have a running spreadsheet they send to the riders with basically your scores. Once you've started, you can kind of see other people's scores. So we have 3 more shows now. There's July, and then there's Bromont, and our June Palgrave at Caledon. So, basically you've got those 3 shows to go give it your all. You do have to do 1 CDI after July. And then they start their selection process really based on scores.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then also, I believe this year we have to send 2 Grand Prix horses to qualify an Olympic team. So it'll be interesting to see if they send 3, to have a backup just in case. So there could only be 1 small tour horse. So that puts a little more pressure on the small tour.
Right.
But,
and there it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, now there's only 1 spot.
Well, Maya, thank you so much for your time tonight. How can our listeners find you online?
Well, they can go to my website, www.equestressage.ca. They can learn more about me and all my horses, and follow me also on Facebook, Equest Dressage, as well as Instagram. And they can also meet all my sponsors. Southern Equine Distributing has been a long-time sponsor. AVR Saddles, Cumville Equestrian Gloves, The Tapestry, Comfort Girth, and Ogilvy Equestrian.
Thank you so much. And we're excited to watch you on your journey to the Pan Ams.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you guys.
Even under the best circumstances, travel is stressful for horses. We've all been there, stuck on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. You can make the journey knowing that US Rider is there for you. Get peace of mind on the road with US Rider's nationwide 24/7 roadside assistance coverage for both you and your horse. Join today at usrider.org.
Well, Phil, I'm not going to lie. For this trainer tip, we were talking that we wanted to talk a little bit about lunging. I think we do this every year. One trainer tip about lunging, because you and I sort of get on our soapbox. I've kind of been on the soapbox this recently, so wanted to talk a little bit about it. So, do you want to start? You want me to start?
Well, I mean, you're going to talk about the reasons for lunging, but I was going to talk about how to teach a horse to lunge.
Love it.
What are some important things to think about? And, because I'm in the middle of starting some horses, a couple of horses, and one of them, which is my own.
She's finally, we need a picture of her. She is so precious, everybody. When Phil bought her as a foal, I was like, yes, please. Yeah.
She was a better looking foal than she was a 2-year-old and now 3-year-old, but she'll chill out. She'll get better. She'll, she's still
don't be judgy, Phil.
Ugly wild phase, sort.
I'm sure she's.
But it's fine. We can, 3 years old, you can start to think about working the horse, which is great. It's been a long wait, but okay. So how am I teaching my young guys to lunge? Well, the first thing, like, how do you teach a horse to lunge? Well, first of all, you have to take your time. And sticking him on the end of a lunge line and activating a lunge whip so that the horse runs around in a circle is not the right way to do it. So everything I do with, as I'm going towards putting a leg over and backing the horse has to be done carefully and with sort of horse emotion in the top of mind, right? So I have to train every day by not scaring the horse, because if like, it's all about trust. And if you lose the horse's trust, you're done, right? You are setting the horse up for failure and at every step of the game. So every day we just do one thing that's a little bit different or a little bit more. And as far as the lunging thing goes, I like to use long lining before I actually lunge the horse or even touch the horse's mouth in a bit. So that's going to take me 3-4 weeks to teach the horse how to go and stop while long lining, while I'm behind the horse. I don't want any part of chasing them with a lunge line, scaring them, like all of that is a real negative experience for the horse. And I don't want to do that, right? So stop and go on straight lines is way better than trying to spin them around and get them super tired. And, that serves no purpose for teaching the horse how to be calm and quiet and, all these things. So over the next few weeks, I'm just going to be able to go and stop with two reins, two lunge lines attached to them. And then eventually I'm going to turn a corner into a full circle. That means that the lunge line has to come up behind the horse. Well, that spooks a lot of them. So they just need to be okay with the lunge line touching their butt and then coming behind their butt. And, like all those things are just very carefully progressive steps in eventually teaching lunging, right? Like teaching the horse to be around me, and then continuously going around the circle in trot is done very carefully with two lines, so the horse doesn't learn to be unbalanced and spin themselves around and just it's for a purpose, yes, and not a single one of the purposes is for fitness.
Right. So let me ask you, Phil, do you use a round pen when you do this?
I don't have one. I don't have one
either.
But typically that's what would happen is, a nice big circular round pen. So nothing smaller than 20-meter circles.
Right.
Right. So again, like their joints are not formed or fused, and like the bones aren't fused. And so I don't want to stress out the horse's brain or their body by going fast around a small circle. I think that's really bad.
It's very bad. And do you create a round pen, or you also have a lovely indoor, so you do have an enclosed space. Do you kind of?
Yeah. So the indoor is actually really a good size for doing young horses in. So it's not 20 by 60, but it's bigger than 20 by 40. So I don't know the exact dimensions, but it's kind of a little wider and a little longer. But for sure, not a wide open space that the horse can get lost in or get going really fast on, But if you're quiet about it, they can learn to lunge with two lines easily. Yes. And then for as a rider, then it's perfect. I can get on I can actually steer, right?
Yeah. It's wonderful. Hopefully you have this ability or know someone that does this, because this is so critical at this age and stage. And y'all, my plan seriously at this stage would be to send it to Philip. I just put it on the van and go north and just have Philip do it. But no, I mean, truly, it is, all joking aside, that would really happen. It's happened before, but really, truly, that's not my specialty, right? Like I'm not very good at that. So I really do work with someone that is good, or I send them to Philip, or someone that I feel like that will do a good job, because this is a really critical stage for them.
It's so critical. I mean, like I said, if you lose, like if a horse at this point loses its confidence or, starts to not trust, the person on the ground, then how are they going to trust when you're on their back, or, gain confidence from somebody who is chasing them with a whip? I really don't think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Right. So, and you have to be careful not to lose your patience. Like, yes. I mean, that would be my thing. Like, see you again. I would send the horse north to Philip and just, it would arrive at his door and it would come back when he told me it was ready. But it's critical. I mean, all joking aside, really, if you're not capable or you don't have the patience, I don't have the patience for that. I know it. It's really important, because this is literally like kindergarten, right? Kindergarten can mess somebody up for their whole life.
If it takes a year, it takes a year. I'm not like, don't be in a rush. Like, I've got to hit the stages of training, and it's got to be doing the 5-year-olds and this. No, no,
easy back. Well, and maybe it will, right? But you really have to, and I think we both as trainers and professionals, don't say, oh gosh, you only have 30 days. Like I have 30 days to pay. Like,
yeah.
Whoa. I mean, it could take 30 days just to get the surcingle on. I mean, Philip's young horse, he's been, he owns it. So he's been playing with it and been with her whole life. So she's probably more advanced, but some horses, if they don't know how to wear a halter, they don't know how to lead, or they don't know how to do whatever, this is a time to really just take your time. You got to walk before you run, and you may have to just halt before you walk. Like, take your time. This is really critical. And when it comes to learning to lunge, and like you said, this is where you are with your horses. We should check back and see how we're doing in the progression. I think
the slower you go, the faster you'll end up in your training. Go slow to go fast. Like,
yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that saying is, but because if you miss a step or something, you're going to have to go backwards.
Yeah.
Anyways, right? You're going to have to go back and fill in all the holes in training and all of that stuff. So, take your time now.
Take your time. And we were reminded, this week, we had some young horses move around. One left, one, was here, and the horse was really upset. And I was trying to work the horse, and, we had empathy, right? Like his best friend just got on a trailer. He has no idea what happened to his best friend. But all he knows is his best friend's not here anymore. His best friend went to a very nice place, but I mean, to the horse's perspective is like, where's my friend? Like, he was so upset, and he's young, he's 5, and he's traveled to Florida with this friend, and he's been with this friend, and so it's difficult, right? So young horses some days are just like, we worked him that day, but we were very empathetic that day to him, because I was like, okay, I understand. We still have some rules. this is stressful. But, young horses are even more susceptible to that. Some, the big guns, my big guns, if they're like that, I'm going to kick them and just be like, yeah, you need to get over. You're fine, but that's an 11-year-old Grand Prix horse, right? Like get over it. You get a 5-year-old that lost his friend, right? That's just an example I had from this week where, okay, we can be empathetic here. We're going to work through this. We know you lost your best friend. Like, I get it. But that's going to happen at a horse show, right? Like, you've got to have strategies for that. So, dealing with young horses, you really, really have to have strategies for that. So, Phil, I think we need to stay on this journey with you on the lunging and when it's time that you're going to ride on the baby. Yeah, on Phoebe's journey. Guys, I just feel a segment coming on. Phil, this is great. This is a great trainer tip. We want to see how Miss Phoebe's doing on her journey. So right now we're lunging Miss Phoebe. So we're going to have to stay in touch. But I think this is a great tip on how to lunge. And so we're going to do another segment on lunging when he comes to a little bit older. So we hope you enjoyed this trainer tip, and we will be back for another segment on my feelings on lunging an older horse. Well, everybody, keep your email and Facebook shout outs coming. And please, there's nothing more that Phil and I like than a successful story. Or if you've done well at a horse show, or you want us to give you a shout out, send us an email. Seriously, we would love it. I've been just loving watching Facebook Monday morning. In the summer, I love it because everyone's talking about their horse show and how much fun they had and the goals they achieved. So we would love to give you a shout out here on the show. Just send it to us because we won't pick it up. Not that we don't love you, but you got to send it to us. Reese at horseradionetwork.com or Phil at horseradionetwork.com. Or you can do it on Facebook on the Dressage Radio Show page. We'll pick it up. And we want to give you guys shout outs because everyone's having a great summer and working really hard. And we want to for sure give you a shout out. As always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our page at horseradionetwork.com. Search Dressage Radio Show. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese at horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably through Facebook, or my email is philip at horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products. If you'd like to support our show and the Horse Radio Network, you can do that through the auditor program found at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we look forward to chatting with you next week.